Do-young Kim stared out the window of the transport ship as it approached Station Helios. The space station looked like a giant silver wheel spinning slowly against the backdrop of stars. This was humanity's first time attending the Stellar Peace Conference, and as Earth's main diplomat, Do-young felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Approaching Docking Bay 3, the ship's computer announced, "Please prepare for arrival." Do-young straightened his dark blue uniform and checked his translator device one last time. The small silver pin on his collar would help him understand the many alien languages he would hear today. He had studied hard about alien cultures, but nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to see. The transport ship docked smoothly. When the doors opened, Do-young took his first steps onto Station Helios. The main hall was huge, with a ceiling that seemed to reach up forever. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked around. Some had blue skin, others had 4 arms, and a few even floated instead of walking. A station officer approached him. "Welcome to Station Helios, Diplomat Kim. I'll show you to your quarters." As they walked through the station, Do-young tried not to stare at the aliens they passed. He noticed they were staring at him too. Humans were new here, and everyone was curious. His room was simple but comfortable, with a bed, desk, and a window looking out into space. "The welcome reception starts in 2 hours," the officer said. "Someone will come to guide you there." After the officer left, Do-young sat on his bed and took deep breaths. "You can do this," he whispered to himself. "Earth is counting on you." 2 hours later, Do-young entered the grand reception hall. The room was filled with diplomatic representatives from across the galaxy. The ceiling was made of clear panels showing the stars above. Soft music played from hidden speakers, and floating lights drifted through the air like peaceful fireflies. As he walked around the room, Do-young heard whispers about the human diplomat. Some seemed friendly, others not so much. He got himself a drink from one of the floating serving trays and tried to look confident. That's when he saw her. She was standing near one of the large windows, looking out at the stars. Her skin had a slight purple tint, and her hair seemed to shimmer with its own light. She was clearly not human, but she was beautiful in a way that made Do-young forget to breathe for a moment. As if sensing his gaze, she turned and looked at him. Their eyes met across the room. She smiled and started walking toward him. "You must be the human diplomat," she said. Her voice was musical, and her translator made her words clear in English. "I'm Hei-yun, representing the Celestial Commonwealth." Do-young bowed slightly, remembering his diplomatic training. "Do-young Kim, representing Earth. It's a pleasure to meet you." "I've been looking forward to meeting a human," Hei-yun said. "Your species is quite fascinating. Is it true that you can eat almost anything?" Do-young laughed. "Well, not anything. But we did evolve with strong stomachs. Earth has many different foods, and we had to adapt." They talked for a while about their different worlds. Hei-yun was curious about Earth's oceans and forests, while Do-young wanted to know about the crystal cities of her homeworld. He found himself relaxing for the first time since arriving on the station. "What kind of music is playing?" Do-young asked, noticing the soft sounds floating through the air. "It's a traditional melody from the Antarian system," Hei-yun explained. "Do you have music on Earth?" "Oh yes, many kinds. Would you like to hear some?" Do-young took out his personal device and played a classical piece. Hei-yun's eyes widened as she listened. The way her face lit up made Do-young smile. But not everyone was happy about their friendly conversation. Across the room, Ambassador Krell of the Dominion watched them with his 4 eyes narrowed. The ambassador's gray scales seemed to darken with disapproval. "The human should not be here," Krell muttered to his assistant. "They are too young, too primitive. And now they're influencing Hei-yun with their barbaric culture. Should we do something about it?" the assistant asked. Krell's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. "Oh yes, we'll do something. But not yet. We must be diplomatic about this." Meanwhile, Du Young and He Yun had moved to a quieter corner of the reception hall. They were discussing art when another alien approached them. It was Chief Medical Officer Jinwoo, his blue-tinted skin glowing softly in the starlight. Enjoying the reception, Jinwoo asked, "It's good to see different species getting along so well." Du Young was just telling me about Earth's art museums. He Yun said, "Did you know they keep their art in special buildings for everyone to see?" Jinwoo seemed interested. Fascinating. Most species keep their art in private collections. Humans continue to surprise us. The evening continued pleasantly. Du Young met more diplomats, some friendly, others politely distant. But he kept finding himself looking back at He Yun. There was something special about her, something that made him want to know more. As the reception was ending, He Yun approached him one last time. "Would you like to meet tomorrow? I could show you around the station. There's an observation deck with an amazing view of the nearby nebula." "I'd like that very much," Du Young said, trying not to sound too eager. After returning to his quarters, Du Young sent his daily report to Earth. He wrote about the reception, the different species he met, and the general reaction to humanity's presence. He mentioned He Yun briefly, noting her friendly attitude toward Earth. Looking out his window at the endless stars, Du Young felt hopeful. Yes, there were some who didn't want humans at the conference, but there were also those like He Yun who were willing to give humanity a chance. What he didn't know was that Ambassador Krell was at that moment gathering his allies for a secret meeting. The ambassador's plans would soon test not only the growing friendship between Du Young and He Yun, but also humanity's place among the stars. As Du Young prepared for sleep, he thought about the day's events. The station's artificial night cycle dimmed the lights, creating a peaceful atmosphere. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, he was content. His first day as Earth's diplomat had gone better than he expected, and he was looking forward to seeing He Yun again. The soft hum of the station's systems lulled him to sleep, while millions of stars twinkled outside his window. Somewhere out there was Earth, waiting to hear if humanity would be accepted into the galactic community. Du Young was determined to make sure they would be. Little did he know that his next few days would test everything he believed about himself, his species, and the true nature of galactic politics. But that was tomorrow's problem. For now, he slept, dreaming of purple-tinted skin and hair that shimmered like starlight. The next morning, Du Young woke up early to prepare for his first official day at the Stellar Peace Conference. He picked his best uniform and made sure his translator pin was working properly. As he got ready, he thought about He Yun and their planned meeting at the observation deck. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit room deep within Station Helios, Ambassador Krell was meeting with his supporters. The room was filled with various alien species, all united in their distrust of humans. "The human presence at this conference is an insult," Krell said, his scales darkening with anger. "They're barely out of their stone age compared to us. And now they're corrupting our own people with their primitive ideas." One of his allies, a tall alien with crystalline skin, spoke up. "What do you suggest we do?" Krell's mouth curved into a cruel smile. "I have arranged a formal dinner for tomorrow night. The human and He Yun will both be there. And I have something special planned for the menu." At the observation deck, Du Young found He Yun already waiting. She wore a flowing dress that seemed to capture and reflect the light of the nearby nebula. The view was breathtaking. Clouds of purple and blue gas stretched across space, dotted with newborn stars. "It's beautiful," Du Young said, looking at both the nebula and He Yun. "This is my favorite place on the station," He Yun replied. "Each time I look at it, I see something new." She turned to him. "How are you finding the station so far?" "It's overwhelming, but in a good way," Du Young admitted. "There's so much to learn about everyone's cultures and traditions." They spent the morning talking about their worlds. He Yun told him about her home planet's floating cities and the annual Festival of Lights. Du Young shared stories about Earth's oceans, mountains, and the changing of seasons. Your world sounds so dynamic, He-Yun said. Most developed planets are more controlled. We manage our weather, our environments, but Earth seems wild and free. Maybe that's why we develop differently, Du Young suggested. We had to adapt to our world rather than changing it completely. Their conversation was interrupted by a station announcement. All delegates please report to the main conference hall for the opening session. The main conference hall was massive, with hundreds of seats arranged in rising tiers. Du Young found his assigned place, noting that he was seated far from the center, where the more established species sat. He-Yun was several sections away, among the Celestial Commonwealth delegation. Ambassador Krell took the main speaker's platform. His voice boomed through the hall. Welcome to the 547th Stellar Peace Conference. We gather here to discuss matters of galactic importance. Some believe we should rush to embrace new species into our community. His four eyes seemed to focus on Du Young. Others believe we should be more careful about who we trust with galactic matters. The rest of the session was filled with diplomatic speeches and formal procedures. Du Young noticed many delegates glancing at him when discussions turned to emerging species and proper development timelines. During the lunch break, Security Director Yoon Seo approached Du Young. Her metallic skin gleamed under the station's lights. Be careful, Diplomat Kim. Not everyone here is happy about Earth joining the galactic community. I've noticed, Du Young said. But surely they'll judge us by our actions, not their prejudices. Yoon Seo's expression was hard to read. Let's hope so. By the way, I heard you're invited to Ambassador Krell's dinner tomorrow night. That's unusual for a new species representative. Before Du Young could ask what she meant, He-Yun joined them. Du Young, I just found out we'll both be at the dinner tomorrow. That's wonderful. Yoon Seo excused herself, giving Du Young a meaningful look as she left. The afternoon session was more technical, discussing trade routes and resource sharing. Du Young paid close attention, taking notes for Earth's future reference, but he couldn't shake a feeling of unease about tomorrow's dinner. That evening, Ambassador Krell met with his personal chef, a creature with multiple arms and eye stalks. Is everything prepared for tomorrow? Yes, Ambassador, the chef replied. The special ingredient has been processed as requested. It will be undetectable in the food. Excellent. Make sure it goes only in the human's portion, and He-Yun's. We want this to look like an unfortunate reaction to alien cuisine. The next morning, Du Young received a message from Earth Command, congratulating him on his handling of the first day. They emphasized the importance of building positive relationships with other species. He spent the day in various meetings and cultural exchange sessions. He-Yun found him during a break, her face bright with excitement. I've been reading about Earth's music, she said. It's fascinating how you create harmony from chaos. Would you teach me more about it? They spent their free time sharing music from their worlds. He-Yun was particularly interested in Earth's classical compositions, while Du Young was amazed by the mathematical precision of her world's sonic arrangements. As evening approached, Du Young prepared for Ambassador Krell's dinner. He chose his formal diplomatic uniform, complete with Earth's new galactic insignia. Looking in the mirror, he tried to project confidence he didn't entirely feel. The dinner was to be held in one of the station's most elegant rooms. The walls were transparent, showing the space outside, and the tables were made of a material that seemed to glow softly. Chief Medical Officer Jin Woo caught Du Young before he entered. Be mindful tonight, he said quietly. Some species find human customs disturbing. Try not to do anything too surprising. Inside, Du Young found his assigned seat. He-Yun was placed next to him, while Ambassador Krell sat at the head of the table. The ambassador's scales were almost black now, but his voice was friendly as he welcomed everyone. Tonight, Krell announced, we celebrate diversity in our galactic community. Each dish has been specially prepared to accommodate all species' dietary needs. As the first course was served, Du Young noticed Krell watching him and He-Yun with unusual intensity. The food looked beautiful, arranged in artistic patterns on shimmering plates. What no one at the table knew was that humans had evolved on a planet with countless toxins and poisons. Over millions of years, they had developed remarkable resistance to many harmful substances. This simple fact was about to become very important indeed. The dinner was about to change everything. Not just for Du Young and He Yun, but for the future of human-alien relations. As he raised his fork to take the first bite, Du Young had no idea he was about to prove humanity's worth in a way no one could have predicted. The first few courses of Ambassador Krell's dinner passed without incident. Du Young found the alien dishes interesting, though some had strange tastes he couldn't quite describe. He noticed He Yun eating carefully, taking small bites of each dish. Then came the main course. The plates gleamed under the starlight streaming through the transparent walls. The food on them looked like shimmering blue crystals arranged in spiral patterns. "This is a special dish from my homeworld," Ambassador Krell announced, his scales rippling with dark patterns. "Please, enjoy." Du Young took a bite. The taste was unusual but not unpleasant. He noticed Krell watching him and He Yun closely, all four of his eyes focused on them. 10 minutes passed. Du Young felt fine, but he noticed He Yun's hand trembling as she reached for her drink. Her purple-tinted skin had started to pale, taking on a grayish color. "Are you all right?" Du Young whispered to her. He Yun tried to answer, but no words came out. Her breathing had become shallow and quick. Suddenly, she slumped forward in her chair. Du Young jumped up immediately. "Something's wrong. He Yun needs medical help." The other dinner guests started muttering and moving away. Ambassador Krell stood up slowly, his expression unreadable. How unfortunate. Perhaps some species are not suited to share meals together. But Du Young wasn't listening anymore. His diplomatic training included basic medical knowledge, and he could see He Yun was in serious trouble. Without hesitation, he lifted her from her chair. "The medical bay," he said firmly. "Where is it?" Security Director Yun Seo appeared at his side. "Follow me, quickly." They rushed through the station's corridors, He Yun growing lighter in color with each passing minute. Du Young's heart was racing, but his mind stayed clear. He noticed that despite eating the same food, he felt completely normal. The medical bay doors slid open automatically as they approached. Chief Medical Officer Jinwoo was already there, apparently warned by Yun Seo through the station's communication system. "Put her on the diagnostic bed," Jinwoo ordered, his blue skin glowing with concern. The medical equipment came to life, scanning He Yun's body. Holographic displays showed her vital signs in alien writing that Du Young couldn't read, but the flashing red colors told him enough. "It's poison," Jinwoo announced, "a rare toxin from the Dominion worlds." "But how?" He looked at Du Young. "You ate the same food. Why aren't you affected?" Du Young's mind raced back to his studies about Earth's history. Humans evolved on a planet with thousands of toxic plants and animals. Our bodies learned to handle many kinds of poison. Could my blood help create an antidote? Jinwoo's eyes widened. Yes, it could. If your body has already broken down the toxin, we might be able to use your blood to synthesize an antidote. He quickly prepared a blood drawing device. "This will hurt." "I don't care," Du Young said, rolling up his sleeve. "Just help her." While Jinwoo worked with Du Young's blood sample, Security Director Yun Seo was reviewing the station's security recordings. "We'll find who did this," she promised, her metallic skin reflecting the medical bay's lights. Du Young sat beside He Yun's bed, holding her hand. Her skin was now almost white, and her breathing was becoming weaker. "Hold on," he whispered. "Please hold on." Jinwoo worked faster than Du Young had ever seen anyone move, his multiple arms operating several pieces of equipment at once. "Your blood is amazing," he said while working. "The way it neutralizes toxins, we could learn so much from human biology." Minutes felt like hours. Du Young kept watching He Yun's vital signs, trying to understand the alien medical displays. He noticed patterns in the numbers and symbols, looking for any sign of improvement. Suddenly, Jin Woo rushed over with a silvery liquid in a medical injector. The antidote is ready. We have to hope her body accepts it. As the antidote entered Hei-yun's system, everyone in the medical bay held their breath. For a long moment, nothing seemed to change. Then, slowly, color began returning to her skin. The medical displays showed changing patterns, and Jin Woo's expression brightened. It's working. Her body is accepting the treatment. Do-young felt weak with relief. He hadn't realized how tightly he'd been gripping the edge of the medical bed. You saved her life twice, Jin Woo said. First by recognizing the emergency and acting quickly, then by providing the means for the antidote. Many species would have panicked or waited for others to act. Security Director Yoon Seo returned with a serious expression. We've reviewed the security recordings. Ambassador Krell was seen speaking with the kitchen staff before the dinner. We're detaining them now for questioning. Hei-yun's eyes fluttered open. Her gaze found Do-young, and her hand tightened around his. What happened? She asked weakly. Someone tried to poison us, Do-young explained gently. But humans are pretty hard to poison. We used my blood to make you an antidote. Why would anyone? Hei-yun started to ask. Then understanding dawned in her eyes. They wanted to make it look like humans were dangerous to be around. Yoon Seo nodded. Instead, they proved the opposite. A human's first instinct was to help, even at personal risk. And human biology turned out to be the key to saving a life. News of the incident spread quickly through Station Helios. Do-young received urgent messages from Earth Command, asking for details and offering support, but he stayed in the medical bay, watching over Hei-yun as she recovered. Jin Woo continued to study Do-young's blood samples with his permission. Your species' adaptations could revolutionize our understanding of toxicology, he said excitedly. This could lead to better treatments for many species. As Hei-yun grew stronger, she and Do-young talked about what had happened. I never imagined my interest in human culture would put me in danger, she said. I never imagined my planet's dangerous environment would help me save someone I care about, Do-young replied. Their conversation was interrupted when Security Director Yoon Seo entered the medical bay. Ambassador Krell and his conspirators are in custody. We found evidence of planning and communications. They'll face the Galactic Council's justice. Do-young looked out the medical bay window at the stars beyond. Earth was out there somewhere, still new to galactic society. His people had evolved on a dangerous world, developing strengths they never knew would be so important. Now those same adaptations had not only saved a life, but might help many other species. Hei-yun's hand found his again. Your people belong here, she said softly, among the stars. Today proved that. The medical bay's lights dimmed slightly as the station's night cycle began. But for Do-young and Hei-yun, it felt like a new dawn was beginning. Not just for them, but for humanity's place in the galaxy. 3 days after the poisoning attempt, Station Helios buzzed with activity. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session to address what had happened. Representatives from every species gathered in the main conference hall, which was now packed to capacity. Do-young sat in the witness section, no longer in the far corners where new species were usually placed. Hei-yun sat beside him, fully recovered thanks to the antidote made from his blood. Her purple-tinted skin had returned to its normal, healthy glow. Security Director Yoon Seo stood at the center of the hall, her metallic skin gleaming as she presented evidence to the council. The huge display screens showed security recordings of Ambassador Krell's secret meetings and his instructions to the kitchen staff. The evidence is clear, Yoon Seo announced. Ambassador Krell and his supporters planned to poison both Diplomat Kim and Representative Hei-yun. Their goal was to make it appear that close contact with humans was dangerous. The hall filled with shocked murmurs. Krell sat in the defendant's area, his scales now a dull gray. His 4 eyes stared at the floor, avoiding everyone's gaze. Chief Medical Officer Jin Woo stepped forward next. His blue skin pulsed with light as he spoke. What the conspirators didn't know was that humans have remarkable biological defenses. Their planet's diverse and often dangerous ecosystem led them to develop strong resistance to toxins. Jinwoo activated a holographic display showing detailed medical scans. Diplomat Kim's blood not only fought off the poison, but helped us create an antidote that saved Representative Hae-Yun's life. This discovery has huge medical implications for all our species. The council members listened intently. The head counselor, an ancient being with crystalline skin, raised a hand for silence. Ambassador Krell, do you wish to speak in your defense? Krell stood slowly. I acted to protect our galactic community from a primitive species. Humans are dangerous. Look how easily they survived a poison that nearly killed one of our own. Yes, Hae-Yun spoke up, her voice clear and strong. Look how easily they used that same ability to save a life. Look how quickly Du Young acted to help someone different from himself, even at risk to his own safety. The head counselor nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, it seems we have judged humanity too quickly, but not in the way Ambassador Krell suggests. Du Young stood up. May I speak? After receiving permission, he walked to the center of the hall. He could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching him, but he wasn't nervous anymore. He knew what he needed to say. Yes, humans evolved on a dangerous world. Du Young began. We had to become strong to survive. But we also learned something else from our planet's challenges: the importance of helping each other. Earth's history is full of stories about people risking themselves to save others. He looked around the hall, meeting the gaze of various species. We don't want to just survive in the galaxy. We want to help it thrive. The same adaptations that protected me from poison let me help create an antidote. Earth's challenges made us strong, but they also taught us compassion. The hall was silent for a long moment after he finished speaking. Then the head counselor stood. We have heard enough. Ambassador Krell and his conspirators will face justice for their crimes. But more importantly, we must address humanity's place in our community. The counselor's crystalline form sparkled as they continued. Today we have seen both the strength and the heart of humanity. Their unique biology, born of their challenging world, could help advance medical science for all species. Their instinct to help others, even those different from themselves, embodies the highest ideals of our galactic community. The announcement that followed changed everything. Earth would be granted full membership in the galactic community, years ahead of the usual timeline. Additionally, a new medical research center would be established on Station Helios, focusing on the study of human biological adaptations to help other species. After the session ended, Du Young and Hae-Yun walked together to their favorite spot on the observation deck. The nebula outside seemed brighter somehow, its colors more vivid. Your people have earned their place among the stars, Hae-Yun said, her hand finding his. Though I wish it hadn't required such a dramatic demonstration. Du Young smiled. Sometimes the best way to show who you are is through actions, not words. Earth still has much to learn about galactic society, but we also have much to offer. Security Director Yoon Seo found them there a little later. The council wants both of you to help establish the new medical research center, she said. They believe your partnership represents the best of interspecies cooperation. Chief Medical Officer Jin Woo joined them, his excitement making his skin glow brighter. The possibilities are endless. Human adaptations could help us develop treatments for diseases that have plagued other species for centuries. And that's just the beginning. As they talked about the future, Du Young looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning, beautiful and dangerous, the planet that had shaped humanity into what they were. Its challenges had made them strong, its diversity had made them adaptable, and its hardships had taught them the importance of helping others. Hae-Yun squeezed his hand gently. What are you thinking about? About how the things that make us different can also bring us together, Du Young replied. About how the very things some people feared about humanity turned out to be gifts we can share with others. The station's day cycle was ending, creating a beautiful sunset effect through the special windows. As the lights dimmed, the nebula outside seemed to dance with color. Earth's first diplomatic mission to the stars hadn't gone as planned, but it had achieved something even better. It had shown the galaxy not just humanity's strength, but their heart. A message from Earth Command flashed on Do Young's communicator. "Well done, Diplomat Kim. You've opened a new chapter in human history." Do Young looked at Hei Yun at their joined hands, one human, one alien, and smiled. This was indeed a new chapter, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. And it was only the beginning.